And there's the cracks. You know, Pastor, cracks are emerging. I think it's a line we always use when you're talking about politics. But now,
I'm not sure whether those ones are
but no longer, it's no longer cracks that are emerging. Gashuri, the events of the past few days about the Jubilee Party, it's no longer Chinyamaji. Things are thick between the president and his deputy, and they have come out to a fore in the past couple of days, Gashuri. We have a new majority leader in business in Senate and a new majority whip in the Senate, and it was almost like kupenduliwa kabisa instantly overnight that things changed.
First, I was not surprised at all. Personally, I was not surprised at all by the changes in the leadership of the Senate. I mean, this discussion about the removal of Kipchumba Murkomen and Susan Kihika was there all along. Even last year, the discussion was there. You could hear mamas here and there, that there was a plan to totally reorganize the House leadership. And what happened in the Senate, we are now told, is heading to the National Assembly. A few of the National Assembly members of the majority leadership could be on their way out. And so chairpersons of various House committees, and put it plainly, those who are deemed to be allies of the Deputy President could be on their way out. And what you saw in the removal of Senator Murkomen, though it may have surprised a few people, look at the way that meeting was constituted at State House. And I dare say the meeting didn't even last about 15 minutes at State House, and the changes were made because they were forethought. It was not that senators were being called to go and deliberate on whether to remove Murkomen or not. Those were decisions that had already been made. They were just being called to go and ratify that decision. In fact, there's a soundbite that I want us to play of the Senate Speaker, Ken Lusaka, communicating that decision to the House. And remember, he was not on the chair. His deputy, Professor Kindiki, was there. And then at one point, just before the House adjourned for that sitting, the speaker, the substantive speaker, came and delivered this verdict to the House.
I'm satisfied with the changes that the changes were made in accordance with Senate Standing Order 19.1, 2, 3, 40, 5, and 7, and meets the threshold required under Standing Order 19.5, there having been a majority of votes. Accordingly, I wish to communicate to the House that the majority has effected changes which shall now take effect as follows. Senate Majority Leader, Senator Samuel Bogisho. 2, Senate Minority Whip, Senator Irun Kangata. 3, Senator Majority Whip, Senator Haji Farhia. For avoidance of doubt, Senator Aden Dulo Fatuma continues to be Senate Deputy Majority. Leader has no change who are made affecting the officer. I will make a reasoned ruling in due course.
Shuri, I think before you continue, we need to just hear the reactions by Susan Kihika and Kipchumba Murkomen after that announcement by the Speaker.
There was no meeting of Jubilee. There was no meeting to remove us. The meeting did not have the number of people they are purporting that they had to remove us.
Where is the list of senators? Because the network ya wakora. What they are doing is actually forging signatures.
The previous holders of those offices, absolutely they had no respect. They even had no vision. I believe they had no vision that we as Jubilee believe in, because most of the time you would see them contradicting the party position.
What has happened at the Senate is, in my view, just but the beginning. I expect the changes that happened at Senate will follow. There will be follow-up of changes at the National Assembly.
Actually, it was a case of gloves are off. Zimetolewa kabisa, hakuna kuficha. This is how things are. And of course, he talks about how there are other changes that are going to come. We already have 5 nominated senators who are going before a disciplinary committee of the Jubilee Party to explain why they did not attend a meeting that was called by the party leader, who is the president.
I was more interested in this statement or this communication that was made by Ken Lusaka to the House.
Yeah.
First, immediately I got this.
Is it the one or that's a copy?
Yeah, a copy.
Okay.
as soon as I saw this this communication, 2 things interested me. Number one, ordinarily when the speaker is making such an important communication, you'd see a statement with a letterhead and a signature and so on and so forth. That one didn't have. And did you see how the speaker was trembling and fumbling as he dealt with that statement, that communication. And more importantly, this was what he said at the very last bit: I will make a reasoned ruling in due course. He didn't say when, he didn't give a timeline. And you see, you cannot demand of the speaker, you promised us a reasoned ruling, so where is it? It's him who made that, who said he's going to give that reasoned ruling. So you will have to wait, and probably wait for quite a whole long time. And that shows the kind of a situation that we're dealing with. These were decisions that were not necessarily made that day. These are decisions that were made long before. Look at what happened just before that decision. The post-election coalition agreement with KANU to give the majority side some 3 more senators. Even the majority leader now is from KANU. So it tells you quite a number of things. I also saw a statement indicating the Jubilee Coalition Parliamentary Group minutes. It indicates that there were 20 senators plus the president and the Secretary General, 22 in total, who attended that meeting. And did you see a flurry of letters with signatures on both ends? Some members who are seen on the lists of senators who were said not to have attended that meeting. 3 of them were also appearing in the list of the senators who attended the Jubilee PG meeting at State House, Nairobi. Linus?
But Linus, before you answer Gashuri, but Uhuru Kenyatta is the party leader. He can make any changes he wants.
Can he?
He can, if he has the numbers.
Look, it tells us a lot about the governance of political parties in this country. This is not the first time in history that things are done that way. Just starting, first of all, internally, Murkomen was removed exactly the same way he was elected in the first place. Remember, it was State House, a meeting, and then they are named as parliamentary leaders. But when I saw Speaker Lusaka reading the statement, my mind immediately went back to March 18th, 2002. The KANU NDP merger, Joe, in Kasarani,
There come a time
where KANU, that's President Moi, had decided he's going in a certain direction. And that direction was going to involve ditching his close allies. And we watched, we were on the floor of Kasarani as Joseph Kamodo was asked to leave his seat of Secretary General, and in comes in the next Secretary General of KANU, Raila Odinga.
Yep.
George Saitoti, Vice President, a sitting Vice President, also vacated his seat so that 4 Vice Chairmen could take the position. There was Ngala, there was Mudavadi, there was Uhuru Kenyatta, and who else?
Kalonzo Musyoka.
And Kalonzo Musyoka, four of them. Now, no elections, no party democracy, but the place is well choreographed. You know, the delegates will rise up and say, we have passed that resolution. And then, of course, that day ended with the merger of KANU and NDP. For politicians crying foul right now, they should look more at the structures of the parties. Are they really political parties that give an equal chance to everyone?
Not.
ODM elections that were conducted in Kasarani. Who are those men in black that ended the election? And why is the party membership not having a problem with that? Let's face it, parties in this country have owners. And when owners decide to go a certain direction, then that will happen. And what happened in this case was there was a fight for control of the party between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, William Ruto. William Ruto had done a pretty fine job of looking ahead, because when you look at the parliamentary leadership, it's made up of his allies. So he did his thing just in 2013, that early. So it's President Kenyatta who is running late and trying now to reclaim the place. And what he has to do involves some very unconventional tactics, like jettisoning Kihika and Murkomen in the way he did.
Joe, the first time of Uhuru's leadership in 2013, even 2017, Ruto was at the center of government. The Brahmans was there. In fact, you remember when Uhuru went to the ICC for the cases, he actually handed over the instruments of power to Ruto. Mpaka aliporudi, things were good. Lakini ngoma sasa imeisha kabisa. What do you think are the options that the deputy president has now?
Jamila, you know, this scenario reminds me of Chinua Achebe's most famous novel, and it begins with sections of a poem by W.B. Yeats that turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot bear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy has been loosed upon the world. We could actually say upon Jubilee. But I think we need to look at this from the context of our politics, that our politics has been built right from independence on the foundation called betrayal. That we started our politics on the foundation of betrayal, where people would enter into political deals and then they actually are trashed. And that, I think, is what has defined our politics. Because you see, every nation has its culture. When you look at all the nations around the world, the things that were done by the founding fathers end up defining the character of politics in those countries. If you look at countries, for example, where they had visionaries, if you look at, for example, countries like Burkina Faso, once in a while they will have some rogue president, but if you look at even their politics and you listen to their politicians speak, you can see the fingerprints of Thomas Sankara, for example, or you go to places like Guinea, they would have problems with coups and everything, but there's a certain philosophical foundation that defines how their politics goes. Even Tanzania, they have political challenges from time to time, but there is a certain solid debate that you will find happening, for example, in their parliament that sits in Dodoma. That is quite different. Their politics tend to be more ideological than perhaps what we have here. So we haven't had that kind of deceit happening in many parts of, in some parts of Africa. Where it has happened, it kind of continues until someone decidedly puts a break to it. And I think that is what's going on here. You've seen that happen during independence between Jaramogi and Kenyatta. You've seen this happening everywhere through, in fact, even when Ford itself was founded at the return of multi-party politics, there was betrayal that happened there. Jaramogi, Matiba, they were going on together, and then suddenly something happens and they are running their own different shows at an election, and then Moi beats them. You have seen the MOU that we talked about for many years in this country between Raila Odinga, Mwai Kibaki. They never quite told us what it was initially, but when it broke, then they came, oh, you know, we had agreed ABCD. And now, and we have seen that even in the opposition, where, you know, for example, in CORD, where they would say, this is how we are going to do this. When the election comes, they say, no, that was if we won the election, but now we didn't win it, so we have to try and do this again. So nobody should be surprised by what has happened in Jubilee. Actually, the bigger story would have been if it did not happen. If actually things went on and Uhuru Kenyatta handed over the baton peacefully in a colorful ceremony to William Ruto and say, ile kumi nilisema ndio hii. That would have been the big surprise. Right now, we are looking at a situation where the deputy president is in an interesting place. I mean, like Linus was saying, he has done a brilliant job because he is a good politician. You have to give it to him. He is very energetic. He's gone out there. He's tried to reach directly to the masses, and many people would say that even in Central, for example, he has some support. We can't tell how much, but he can't go there and not find a lot of people who are willing to listen to him. And I think that is something that you have to give to him. But I think our politics is a lot more than just the people. You have to manage these other things that happen. Like Gashuri was asking, can the party leader do? Yes, he can, because he has just done it. As to whether he should do it, that can be a big debate. But whether he can, he can. He has done it, and we have seen Irungu Kangata the other day writing letters now to people who are being called for disciplinary hearing. So the deputy president, I think, has to go back to the drawing board. He has the option, for example, of sitting tight and taking the the beating as it is, and waiting maybe perhaps to get some sympathy from the voters and see what happens. He can bolt out if he wants. That has its own costs, because once you're out of government, you're vulnerable. You don't have, for example, the trappings that come with your office. You don't have loyalty, all of those things that you might come. So he has what you say, kibarua kigumu, but this is politics. I mean, we are still two years away from 2022.
Gashuri, 2 years away from 2022, mvua ilianza kumnyeshea naibu wa rais after the handshake?
Probably even before the handshake. Because truth be told, even between 2013 and 2017, it's not that there were no issues in Jubilee, there were. Only that they were being chezwad, ile tunasemanga mtaani chini ya maji. But clearly there were issues, and a lot of them. But that time, the public view was that this thing is very good, these guys are organized, they're together, but beneath there were quite a number of issues. And the most important question that somebody asked me another day is, what is it that the deputy president did to the president that has triggered this amount of anger? I didn't have a very good answer to that. I don't know whether I would have one. But at the same time, there's a question or an issue that has come up in Parliament every so often. Who has the numbers? And twice, actually thrice, you've seen that attempt to demonstrate who has the numbers. You remember when a group of MPs went to Serena and talked about a plan to impeach the deputy president, or even that question of him resigning if he's not content with working with the president. Immediately, the mobilization that was done in Parliament, and over 100 members of Parliament supporting the deputy president, converged there and even addressed a news conference. And the message that day was, here are the numbers, bring it on. You remember that day? Mm-hmm. And then there was also, during the BBI rallies and so on and so forth, a group of MPs who support the deputy president went to Naivasha. And once again, TV is about pictures. You saw that long shot, we call it a long shot, showing you that group of MPs. And those are some of the things that probably do not sit very well with the president, because here is your deputy showing you that I have the numbers. In fact, there's some sound bites I picked out, one by Millicent Omanga and another one by Moses Kuria on that particular matter, and probably it would go to show you what I'm talking about.
We hear that they want to bring an impeachment motion to impeach the deputy president. I want to tell them, or we want to tell them, bring it on, baby, bring it on.
It is a prerogative of the president to reshuffle cabinet. He can do it anytime. We don't have that power. He has a power. If he want to bring Raila Odinga as chief minister, let him just go ahead instead of all these shenanigans.
You see now, that daring. And of course, the president had to respond. And maybe what you're seeing now is that response. Even the 5 nominated senators who are being earmarked for expulsion, I'm not very sure whether it will go to that extent of expelling them. It's a bit of... and you'll see a lot of this. Even in the National Assembly, you'll see a lot of the whipping. And this is basically to show you who is the boss. As to whether the members of parliament who are targeted will play ball and maybe shift allegiance is a different ball game altogether, Linus.
Yes, let me just try, Jamila, to put this in perspective when it comes to the office of the vice president, or now renamed office of the deputy president. Because we are a presidential system as a country, that's what we settled for in 2010 under the new constitution. And when you look at the history of the office of the vice presidency, because it's borrowed from America, the first vice president was called John Adams. And when he was asked to describe his job, he said, "In this I am nothing, but I may be everything." Now, some say that the vice presidency is a heartbeat away from the presidency. Somebody forgot to say that it's also a heartache away from the presidency, because there is so much that goes on there. When you look at the execution of the office of vice president as exercised by Deputy President William Ruto, there is a combination of the thirst for political power of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and the reckless tactics of Dr. Josephat Karanja. When you combine the two, it runs into trouble. Because what it has translated into is something the president's side consider insubordination, undermining the president, running your own show. And when you look at the history of vice presidents, they are supposed to deliver only two things. One is absolute loyalty. The second one is political obscurity. You're not supposed to be a star at all. Your time will come. But when you look at how... Sorry?
If it will.
If it will. And it will if you wait that way, in most cases. At least in the case of Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, who never really showed his head, never showed his ambition. But when you look at sound bites, and we don't have time for a lot of that, when you see the execution of the office of DP in the first term, it was really a co-presidency. Because you will have the DP saying, Rais na mimi, the work we are doing with the president. It doesn't work that way with when it comes to presidential politics, because you will immediately attract the kind of hostility that has happened. Now, when you point at what exactly went wrong, I'll give about 3 issues. One is it became a contest between Uhuru's legacy and Ruto's 2022 ambitions. Now, one has to lose. Now, one has to wait. You can't have both at the same time. And that is why you see President Kenyatta coming out rather forcefully. The other thing that could have gone wrong is the early positioning of a campaign by the deputy president and positioning it in clear terms. Hustlers versus dynasties. So, hustlers, that is his side, has done their bit, going to central Kenya and having the Tanga campaigns. Now, dynasties did the handshake, and they are striking back, taking back parliament, taking back the Senate. So, what we should ask as Kenyans is, how long will this drama go on? Mm-hmm. And how will it affect what ought to be delivery of day-to-day governance? We have to remind the government of Big Four agenda, because this sounds to me like Big Five, another one.
So okay, we need to end this, gentlemen.
This is what John Mbadi says, that our standing orders are not as clear as people try to suggest on some of these issues. People keep talking about signatures, for example, but if you read the standing orders, there's no requirement for a signature. It talks of minutes with a list, not signature, a list of senators or members of parliament, and not signatures. And then it says the decision of the House leadership will always remain a political party affair, not legal. The same way you come into the office is the same way you can leave. So majority and minority leaders are representatives of party leaders in the houses in a pure parliamentary system and must enjoy total loyalty to party leaders.
And talking about total loyalty, there's a question that I've seen quite a number of people raise: the place of the system in the whole issues, the whole of these issues that we see. And previously, the deputy president has spoken directly about that system issue. Remember, during the burial of Sergeant Kenei, he said, they have the system, we have God. We have, basically, like we have the people. And it seems to work in reverse in this context. For how long, no one knows. But as is now, seems like the numbers are being tilted, the leadership is being altered, and looks like it will be this way to the end. And then silently behind the scene, where is BBI?
Before you go to BBI, if you're okay with the system in 2013 and you're happy with the system in 2017 and unhappy with the system in 2020, that is some inconsistency.
Yeah.
You will be very unhappy if you know what the system is, Linus.
And here some of us thought that because we have the COVID-19 pandemic, siasa itawekwa backseat, but it seems this is Kenya. It's now time to finish the show.